So, J. Ruud, what lovable book are we talking about today?
Well, Stacey Margaret Jones, I'll give you a hint. Poet Laureate of Maryland.
Have I read this book?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm going to need more hints.
All right, then.
Welcome to Between the Covers, the weekly book podcast in which Merlin Mystery Series and Robin Hood Mystery Series author J. Ruud shares one lovable book each week from his list of the 100 most lovable novels in the English language with me, author of Mr. Catherine. I am Stacey Margaret Jones. So, all right, let's see if I can add to my humiliation. Especially when we did two Bronte books in a row that I had read and couldn't guess. One of them I had just read. All right. Give me the second hint, please.
Okay, here's hint number 2. Henry Burlingame.
I don't know. Hint number 3, please.
Hint number 3, Ebenezer Cook's Tobacco Plantation.
Well, I should know it, but I don't.
No. If you haven't read it, you probably don't get anything from any of those quotes, from those hints. This is John Barth's The Sot-Weed Factor.
Oh, man. I should have guessed that because I saw you carrying it around a couple months ago. I should have known it was coming to get me.
Yes, it was coming to get me.
Wow. I would never have guessed that,
Well,
even though I saw you with the book because I don't know anything about it. So.
No. Now you know something about it. It's about the first poet laureate of Maryland.
Yes.
Ebenezer Cook, who has a tobacco plantation.
It's fiction?
Yeah.
And the poet laureate is fictional?
Well, not really.
Oh, okay. So plans are plans. Before we talk about who else likes this book, why don't you tell us when the book came out, how long it is, kind of give us some context.
Okay. This book came out in 1960.
Okay.
And it was John Barth's first foray into what was to become known as postmodernism.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, people talked about black humor novels, which is what this would have been included in. But when I think of John Barth, I think of that stanza in A.E. Hausman's To an Athlete Dying Young. Now you will not swell the rout of lads who wore their honors out. Runners whom renown outran, and the name died before the man. Barth was one of the most talked about novelists of the 1960s and the 1970s. By the time he died at the age of 93, just a few years ago, you didn't hear him talked about at all.
Yeah, I
anymore.
mean, his name looms large, maybe because I know you, and we have a lot of his books, right? Or several.
Yeah, I have.
But I have never read a book by him, I don't think.
No. His first 2 novels were kind of traditional, realistic novels. With The Sot-Weed Factor, he just went off on a whole new direction.
He went ham.
He did. And that was followed by Giles Goat Boy, which was a best-selling novel.
I mean, who doesn't want to read a book called Giles Goat Boy?
Nobody doesn't want to read it. I'll tell you, it was touch and go between The Sot-Weed Factor and Giles Goat Boy.
Okay.
A collection of short stories called Lost in the Fun House, which is influenced by Borges. A National Book Award-winning collection of novellas called Chimera. And a mind-boggling, in fact, this might have been what turned people off to him, an epistolary tour de force called Letters.
Okay.
In 1979. And in Letters, he has a character from each of his previous books writing letters to each other.
It sounds fun.
It really
is.
is.
Or fun to write, anyway.
I'm sure. But it's really complex.
Oh, okay.
And he has, in this particular month, the letters are written on dates that, if you look at the calendar, spell out a letter.
Okay, I don't understand what you just said.
So say if the letter's L, it's you have a Sunday, 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 and then Monday, Tuesday. So if you look at the dates on the calendar, it makes a letter.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's also hard to do this because Sot-Weed Factor is set in 17th century Maryland, and his other novels are set in the 20th century.
Okay.
So it's hard to... anyway.
Well, let's get back on our structure, but I did want that because I was thinking that people may not have heard of him, or they may have, like me, heard of him but not really know that much. So who else likes, besides you, who else likes the Sot-Weed Factor?
Well, it's included in Time Magazine's 2005 list of the 100 best English language novels since 1923. It was number 42 on Larry McGaffery's 20th Century's Greatest Hits, which was a list that he came up with as a kind of answer to the Modern Library's 1998 list. On the site bookriot.com, it's included in the 100 Greatest American Novels, 1893 to 1993. And Harold Bloom included it in his book, The Western Canon.
Okay.
So it has a lot of bona fides.
Yes. All right. Well, why don't you give us the down and dirty summary or the log line, or what is this book about? Just to give us an idea of, the main strokes.
Okay. So he takes the title, which means tobacco merchant.
Okay, I was going to say...
maybe the tobacco farm.
What does the title mean?
Yeah,
It's so weird.
Tobacco is Sot-Weed.
Oh, okay.
And
I didn't know
a factor is a manufacturer.
Oh, okay.
So a tobacco merchant. But that's the title of a 1708 poem of the same name, The Sot-Weed Factor, or A Voyage to Maryland, a satire, by an otherwise unknown poet named Ebenezer Cook. So Ebenezer Cook was actually...
the first poet laureate of Maryland?
Well, he is in the novel.
He's a poet in Maryland?
He is a poet who lived circa 1665 to circa 1732.
In what is now Maryland?
Well, yeah, I mean, he was born in England, but he travels to Maryland. I don't want to mix the character in the book with the actual...
We're still doing the down and dirty summary.
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
Well, we haven't even started it yet. I was just telling you what the title meant. And that he took it from an actual poem that was written by an actual poet. And he makes up this whole story around this poet who writes this first poem about Maryland, basically. It's a fantastic and hilarious pseudo-biography in the form of the novel. Cook is an unsuccessful London poet who's exiled by his father to his tobacco farm in the new colony of Maryland. Before leaving London, he obtains the title Poet Laureate of Maryland from Charles Calvert, 3rd Baron Baltimore, who commissions him to write an epic Marylandiad to advertise the assets of the new colony. But Ebenezer has all these terrible experiences and doesn't see anything in Maryland worth writing about that's praiseworthy, so he writes this satire instead called The Sot-Weed Factor.
Oh, okay. I'll give you the harps of glory.
Okay.
So
I won't go on any further then.
Yeah, that's my way of saying stop. Your work here is through.
Yeah.
All right. So, I had no idea what it was about. So let's talk about why the novel is lovable. And while you're doing that, maybe you can tell us what makes it postmodern, if it is indeed a postmodern novel.
Well, it is.
Because I think of him as a postmodern author, but that doesn't mean all of his novels are postmodern.
Well, all of them aren't. The first two aren't. Everything since then gets into the postmodern category. Actually, Barth wrote a manifesto that was published in The Atlantic in 1967 and was very famous because, here was one of the founders of postmodernism giving this manifesto called The Literature of Exhaustion. And he argued
Wait, is he writing today? What?
In the essay, he calls literary realism a used-up tradition. And that inspired this perception on the part of a lot of writers that the novel was dead. That he was projecting the death of the novel, which is not what he was doing.
Right.
he was not that pessimistic. He was announcing a new direction for the novel, a different kind of novel. A novel, as he said, which imitates the form of a novel by an author who imitates the role of an author.
Well, that sounds very postmodern.
Yeah. And
nothing is as it seems.
And what he does is he goes back to the roots of the novel. So,
oh, is that why you chose it along with?
Yeah. Last week we talked about Tom Jones.
Yeah.
The Sot-Weed Factor owes an awful lot to Tom Jones.
Interesting.
It's that kind of a structure.
Very cool.
And also owes a lot to Don Quixote.
So
Tom
he's
Jones
in
did.
conversation with these novelists.
Yeah.
Is he also
Also-
in conversation with Clarissa?
No, there's
Nobody's in conversation with Clarissa.
ain't no Richardson here, but Voltaire. There's a lot of that's reminiscent of Candide, actually.
Oh, okay.
in it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Lengthwise, it's Tom Jones-like. I mean, this is an 813-page novel.
Oh, my goodness.
So he didn't quite get to the length of Tom Jones, but not for not trying.
I would say that for the casual observer, he is in the neighborhood.
Yeah. In fact, somebody asked him after he wrote this if he had read, and I'm not going to remember the novel. There was another novel that had become popular that was 900 pages long. And he said something like, "No, I haven't read it. If you can't say what you have to say in 816 pages, then it's not worth reading."
I like it. It's a good sense of humor. So we're talking about what makes it postmodern.
Yeah, and it imitates the form of a novel by imitating the form of the novel at its birth.
But a lot of novelists take the novel form, and it's not postmodern.
No,
It's because it's a send-up, so to speak.
it's a.
It's a hologram.
It kind of makes the statement that the realist novel has gone as far as it can. I'm going back to the beginning of the tradition and starting over.
Because the contemporary realist novels are not exciting because they're not doing anything new.
Nothing new, yeah.
You know, I have a lot of impatience for those kinds of pronouncements, right? This is dead. This has gone as far as it can go.
Well, for him, he had proven he could write a decent
Traditional
novel. In fact, both his early novels were praised and nominated for awards, but he was just.
I know they must have
I think
been.
He was saying, "Okay, I've done that. There's got to be something else. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try to go back." From this point on, his novels kind of explore the beginnings of narrative.
Okay.
In Chimera, he actually goes further back. The first part of Chimera is about Scheherazad's sister, listening to the stories that Scheherazade is telling.
Yeah.
And then the next two parts are Greek myths that are told in ancient Roman or Greek narratives.
I was going to say I knew that he must have been successful because only a successful novelist could get a postmodern novel. Like, you have to have a certain amount of sway and pull with the publishing establishment to be experimental.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard to be experimental as a nobody.
That's true.
Unless you have exactly the right champions, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's hard. But, yeah, that's interesting.
Giles Goatboy.
I mean, oh my God, that is the best. That's almost a better name. You know, my favorite title of a novel ever is Jude the Obscure.
That's a good one.
And this, I think, Giles Goatboy is number 2.
Giles Goatboy is...
I laugh every time.
Somebody wrote Barth a letter after reading The Sot-Weed Factor and talked about the whole archetypal tradition of what the hero does, the kind of circle the hero goes through and each stage of that circle, and said that the Sot-Weed Factor covered almost every one of them. And Barth said, well, I'm going to write a novel that covers every one of them. And that's what he did in
Challenge
Giles,
accepted.
Giles Goatboy.
I
He
see.
deliberately wrote it in accordance with the archetype of the hero narrative.
But then what makes that postmodern?
Well, it's about the university as universe. Giles Goatboy is a savior figure who is sired by a computer out of a virgin, and he's raised among the goats, so he's kind of a savior figure who comes to write the revised new curriculum.
Gosh, given what we're going through with technology and AI and academia, et cetera, I would think that book would be very popular right now. It feels very current.
You would think so.
How long is Giles Goatboy?
It's much shorter than
maybe I'll read that
it's
one.
It's only about 770 pages.
Much shorter. Fractionally shorter. Well, we're getting a little off topic, but it sounds like we really can't talk about this book without talking in context of his oeuvre.
It's hard
his
to
career.
Yeah. But it is very Tom Jones-like in its humor.
Yeah.
It's kind of Tom Jones-like in its structure. It's
sounds
got
self-reflexive.
4 parts. There's a lot of self-reflexive.
Okay.
But it's also picaresque.
Mm-hmm.
There's Ebenezer Cook in London. Then he's kind of exiled by his father, and he goes to America. But going to America takes a long time. He's on a boat that's attacked by pirates. He's captured by the pirates. He's in love with a prostitute named Joan Toast. And
who doesn't love toast?
Nobody. Okay, I said there was no Clarissa in this. There is. Well, at least there's Richardson, because Ebenezer pledges to remain a virgin for the sake of Joan Toast, and he will not have sex with any other woman.
So we have the moral rectitude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which turns, by the end, he realizes how completely idiotic that is.
I learned it.
And ultimately, he has sex with Joan Toast, who's dying of syphilis at the time.
Oofta.
But I don't want any spoilers here.
So how did you choose Sot-Weed Factor over the other books that Barth has written? Because you seem like you're a completist. Are you a John Barth completist?
Just about.
Okay.
I may have missed 1 or 2 of his last books.
Okay. So you're a super fan.
Yeah.
How did you choose this one?
I found it the most entertaining.
Okay, so the most lovable.
It was the most lovable.
You enjoyed reading it the most.
Yes.
Because I think that's important about your list is that while these books are, much respected and, on all these lists and stuff, they're just dang great to read, right?
Yeah.
Like you'll enjoy reading it.
This is another book that is as long as it needs to be, and
I like that.
never seems like it's too long.
Mm-hmm.
It's more episodic, probably overall, than Tom Jones.
Okay.
There's a lot of similarity in the language. In fact, there are times when Barth almost seems like he's Fielding addressing the audience. There's one part, Fielding at the beginning of book 18 in Tom Jones, which is the last book.
Mm-hmm.
Fielding takes his farewell to the reader, and he says, "We are now, reader, arrived at the last stage of our long journey. As we have therefore traveled together through so many pages, let us behave to one another like fellow travelers in a stagecoach, who have passed several days in the company of each other, and who, notwithstanding any bickerings or little animosities which may have occurred on the road, generally make all up at last, and mount for the last time into their vehicle with cheerfulness and good humor, since after this one stage it may possibly happen to us as it commonly happens to them, never to meet more." And Barth begins part 4. Sot-Weed Factor has 4 parts. Tom Jones had 3 volumes.
Mm-hmm.
But at the beginning of part 4, Barth says, "Lest it be objected by a certain stodgy variety of squint-minded antiquarian that he has in this lengthy history played more fast and loose with Clio, the chronicler's muse, than ever Captain John Smith dared, the author here posits in advance, by way of surety, 3 blue-chip replies arranged in order of decreasing relevancy." So he addresses the reader who might be objecting to what he's going to do in a voice that sounds a lot like Fielding.
Ah, okay. So he's
addressing
entered the chat, right? He's part
Yeah.
of the conversation
Yeah.
with this.
And he's defending taking liberties with history, which, of course, he has through the entire book, because the only thing we know about Ebenezer Cook is that he wrote that poem.
Yeah, he existed, and
he
he wrote this
existed and he
poem.
wrote that poem.
What do you think? I mean, he wrote this manifesto that this realistic fiction novel, right?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? It is done all it can do, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to do these novels.
Of course, he's wrong about that.
Yeah, I was like, well, okay. I don't agree with that, mostly because human experience hasn't experienced all that humans are going to experience. So there's always going to be a new realistic fiction that's going to be cogent, right, that we can share.
Yeah.
However, he was doing something different. What influence did he have, even though now he's not widely read? Did he have an influence on the next wave? Or
sure.
So
I
what
mean,
were the influences that he had?
I mean, he influenced people like Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh, okay.
Joseph Heller wrote Catch-22 the same year.
So there was
So
some
there-
zeitgeist.
Something in the air.
Yeah,
Thomas Pynchon was probably getting some vibes from him. There was a term that critics coined, fabulist,
Yes, okay.
which described Barth and described other people who were writing kind of fabulous.
Okay.
Not fabulous in the sense of, wow, that's fantastic.
Right,
but
right.
fabulous in the sense of not quite real.
Right.
And people who were writing those kinds of novels at the time were,
Okay.
were
But it wasn't-
influenced by him.
It's not magical realism.
No, although that's a similar kind of reaction to the realistic novel.
Right. It's like I'm going to do something different to expand the capabilities of this
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting to me because I think it really is fascinating when somebody makes a big impression and yet doesn't stay top of mind for people.
Yeah.
Like we live with the outcome of the fact that he wrote what he did.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have probably never heard of him.
That's probably true. If he's going to be taught in college classes, it's going to be maybe Chimera, which has the three
Is it shorter?
Novellas. Oh, much shorter.
That's why.
3 novellas.
I've taught college classes.
Or, yeah, I mean, not too many people are going to assign an 800-page novel nowadays, unless you're teaching the Victorian novel where everything you read is going to be 800 pages.
Right. And they knew that. They knew the job was dangerous when they took
That's
it.
right. Or you might teach one of his short stories from Lost in the Funhouse. The first short story in Lost in the Funhouse is called Night Sea Journey, which takes its name from one of the archetypal stages of the hero, sort of the introduction of the hero. And it's told from the point of view of a sperm cell.
I think I have read this, actually.
Swimming upstream to that entity in which he's going to submerge himself and become part of the greater.
Right.
You know, it's like this sperm cell has read a whole history of Western philosophy. So, I mean, that kind of thing
Yeah.
still, I think, gets people. Or there's another story from. I realize that I'm talking a lot about things that aren't in. The
No,
Sot-Weed
but I
Factor.
think it's important because, like I said, we can talk about other authors. We can talk about a discrete work by other authors because the authors are better known.
Yeah.
You can take Jane Eyre because not just Charlotte Bronte, but the Brontes are well known, right? And people have a general knowledge. Mm-hmm. But I think with an author like this, I think a discussion of the overall context is really helpful. They might not want to read Sot-Weed Factor, but they might be looking for an introduction. So,
well, I was going to say another story that would be very interesting to teach, and I never have taught it. It's in Lost in the Funhouse. It's called the Menelaid, and it's Menelaus telling the story of how he came back from the Trojan War, and it's Menelaus telling the story to somebody else who's telling the story. To somebody else who's telling the story. And it ends up with 7 levels
it's like Inception.
of internal...
Inception.
Yeah. internal narrators.
Right. Oh, my God, that hurts my head.
In fact, he starts out telling the story to himself. So I said to myself, I said to Proteus, I said to Helen, I said to...
What I think is fascinating, though, is that he's like, okay, this is the end of this, and here are all the things from this that I'm going to use.
Yeah.
Here are all the things from the thing that is ending that I am going to use to continue this thing. But that's fascinating.
Getting back to what he does with history, he doesn't only mess around with the history of Ebenezer Cook, but also with Captain John Smith.
Oh, interesting.
Because Ebenezer and his sister had a tutor, and this sounds kind of like Tom Jones, doesn't it? Had a tutor named Henry Burlingame.
Oh, okay.
Who ultimately is in love with his sister. But Burlingame has this very kind of absurdist view of the universe that he ultimately inculcates Ebenezer with. And he had a grandfather who was a companion of Captain John Smith. And this first Henry Burlingame kept a journal in which he wrote about what really happened with John Smith and Pocahontas and all of that. And it turns out to be a pretty, shall we say, risque story. And Ebenezer keeps finding these, and he's trying to get them for Henry, for his tutor. But Henry Burlingame is one of the most fascinating characters in the book, maybe the most fascinating, because he is not limited by selfhood. He turns up all over the book in disguise as somebody else. And you know, every time Ebenezer thinks that he's been talking to somebody else, turns out he was talking to Burlingame, disguised as that person.
That's hilarious.
And Burlingame says, I said he was a kind of an advocate of the absurd universe. Like a lot of early postmodern works, it focuses on absurdity.
Right.
So Burlingame says at one point, man's lot, he is by mindless lust engendered and by mindless wrench expelled. From the Eden of the womb to the motley mindless world, he is chance's fool, the toy of aimless nature, a mayfly flitting down the winds of chaos. But in that chaos, human beings are the only ones who have the capacity to recognize the absurdity, which makes them something else. Man is the only animal that laughs and weeps, for he is the only animal that is struck with the difference between what things are and what they ought to be. And so the universe needs human beings to give it meaning. It's very kind of existential. My dear fellow, Burlingame says to Ebenezer at one point, we sit here on a blind rock careening through space. We are all of us rushing headlong to the grave. Think you the worms will care when anon they make a meal of you, whether you spent your moment sighing wigless in your chamber or sacked the golden towns of Montezuma? Look ye, the day's nigh spent. 'Tis gone careening into time forever. Not a tale's length past, we lined our bowls with dinner, and already they growl for more. We are dying men, Ebenezer. In faith, there is time for naught but bold resolves.
Well, it makes you wonder, too, if, considering what was going on, when were his novels published, in the 60s and 70s?
This was written in 1960.
Considering the kind of upheaval in the United States then, and the world, it makes you wonder if we're headed into an absurdist period. Because it's so hard to find, like, to put your foot down and think there will be ground there, right? Like, I counted on this yesterday, but today it is no longer an assumption I am safe to make.
Yeah.
And that absurdity is a response to that.
Yeah.
Look at all this. Everything we thought is unreliable. And, you know, absurdity is the only constant.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder if we're going to revisit that theme.
Of course, that theme had been around already for several years, but, I mean, besides Sartre and Camus, theater of the absurd had sprung up the early 1950s. 52 was
Yeah.
when Waiting for Godot, I think, was first performed.
Right. But it's having a different kind of wave in this with Barth, maybe, in fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why might somebody not like the Sot-Weed factor?
Oh, they might be looking for some kind of real resolution. They might be looking for something that makes sense.
When the point is that things
the
are
point
not
is that
making
there isn't
sense.
any point.
There's no
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay. The length, maybe some
The
people.
length might put some people off, but it's not. I was going to say it's not a difficult read, but I guess it kind of is because
It's challenging.
The language is kind of a parody, maybe, but an imitation, at least, of say Fielding's language.
Right. Because
and-
of when it's set.
Yeah. Because
Oh,
of when
okay.
it's
So it might be a little bit. Might take a bit of you getting used
It
to.
might take a bit. And it's episodic. I mean, it alternates between passages of Burlingame's journal that talk about Captain John Smith and using the eggplant technique, which apparently makes your penis grow very large, with things that are kind of set pieces. There's a section of the story that reads very much like Chaucer's Reeve's Tale. It's obviously inspired by that story.
Yeah.
And it just kind of sits there as an episode in the picaresque wanderings of Ebenezer. There are things that are just kind of crazy. There's one passage in the novel where these two women begin arguing, and it turns into just a back and forth exchange in which they call each other synonyms for whore in two different languages. And it goes on literally for 8 pages.
Yeah. So I think probably it is for you if you like that kind of craziness and like here, hold my beer and watch what I can do with language and join me, not watch what I can do, but join me, right, in this adventure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, here's the passage.
Okay. Please don't read it. We won't be able to keep our clean bill of health.
Okay, it's only 4 pages.
Oh, okay.
But just a very short. Horror, shouted the first. Bascule, retorted the other. Frisker, consul, trull, fricolel, sow, unsigayer, bod.
Right.
Back
Okay.
and forth, back and forth
Right.
For 4 long pages.
Oh, okay. Well, you could skim that.
Although you would find some fascinating new synonyms for whore that you probably didn't know before.
I think we say sex worker now.
Well, we do now, but
He did not. Okay. So before we go to the ranking, why don't you tell us if there's any other reasons for loving this complicated, unusual novel?
Well, the parodies of Tom Jones and Don Quixote, for someone who's familiar with those works, are really kind of entertaining.
Okay.
You hear the voice of Cervantes or the voice of Fielding in a lot of places. The novel starts out, in the last years of the 17th century, there was to be found among the fops and fools of the London coffee houses one rangy, gangling flitch called Ebenezer Cook, more ambitious than talented, and yet more talented than prudent, who, like his friends in folly, all of whom were supposed to be educating at Oxford or Cambridge, had found the sound of Mother English more fun to game with than her sense to labor over. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to hear an echo of this sentence that begins Don Quixote. In a village of La Mancha, the name of which I have no desire to recall, there lived not so long ago one of those gentlemen who always had a lance in the rack, an ancient buckler, a skinny nag, and a greyhound for the chase. He's beginning it as if he's Cervantes.
Right.
And another place that's kind of amusing, where he, way imitates Fielding, is in the chapter titles. Oh. All of the chapter titles in Tom Jones are amusing in themselves. Chapter 9 is called The Wise Demeanor of Mr. Western in the Character of a Magistrate, a hint to justices of peace concerning the necessary qualifications of a clerk with extraordinary instances of paternal madness and filial affection. That's the chapter title.
Right.
Or there's another one, a very short chapter in which, however, is a sun, a moon, a star, and an angel. And the chapter titles in Sot-Weed Factor, chapter 23, in his efforts to get to the bottom of things, the laureate comes within sight of Malden, which is his estate, and so far from arriving there, nearly falls into the stars. Or chapter 10, the Englishing of Billy Rumbley is related purely from hearsay by the traveling whore of Dorset.
It reminds me, honestly, of Friends episodes titles, which are always the one with the one with the duck.
That's right.
Right.
So Friends owes something to, if not John Barth, at least Henry Fielding.
There you go. All right. Well, where are we putting this on our ranking of the? We're building a ranked list of the 100 most lovable novels in the English language, according to J. Ruud. So,
okay. I'm going to put this at number 23.
Okay.
Which is right after Wolf Hall.
Oh, interesting.
And right before Pale Fire, because it's kind of in that
postmodern, obviously.
That category that Pale Fire is in.
Yeah, I can see that. And Wolf Hall is also historical.
Yeah, only a little more close to actual history, I think.
Yes. All right. Well.
All right.
Fascinating.
There we are.
Very interesting.
Gonna run off and read that now, are you?
Yeah, all right. Gonna start tomorrow.
Okay, then. So is it time for Chaos Reader?
Yes. So we're going to do a little promotion, selves promotion. We were in Ireland for the International Conference on the Short Story in English, and the conference publishes an anthology every year of stories by participants in the conference. And some people read their story that's in the anthology. I did. That's what I did. And other people submit a story for the anthology and then read something that they might be working on. Like, I think Nancy Friend did that.
Or they read something that they published earlier.
Yes, which Shady read some pieces out of her book, Shady Cosgrove. You read a short story that you kind of crafted from the narrative of your novel.
Yeah.
So
it's a section of the novel that I tried to make read like a short story.
Yes. My novel that I have out with publishers trying to get published is sections, different people in a family over a period of time. And so basically my short story was just one of those episodes, one of those vignettes from my novel. So I didn't really have to do much to turn it into a short story because it's a short story that fits in the structure of the novel. So anyway, the anthology is called How It Works, The Uniqueness of the Short Story. And there are lots of really good short stories in here.
How many are in there? It's a huge
I don't know. It
anthology.
is a big book. I didn't count how many. But there are pages and pages of lists. I don't know how many, but this year was fun because it was in Killarney. There were a number of Irish writers participating because the conference moves around to different locations, and then you always get more people from that country, right, to participate. So this anthology is going to have more of an Irish accent, which is always fun. So if you're looking for short stories to read, How It Works, The Uniqueness of the Short Story. It's an anthology.
I think there's almost 100 in there.
Yeah, that's an anthology that Jay and I both have stories in, and I always look forward to leafing through it and reading the stories by my friends and by other people that, I went to their reading and I really liked what they read, and I want to read more by them. So there you go.
All right.
So we'd like to thank our podcast production sensei, Jerry Bruno, who also makes the cover art for our YouTube's videos. And we'd like to thank all of our listeners all over the world. That's always fun to look at the list of countries and see where people are from. And we'd like to ask you to continue to tell your friends, your book-loving friends, about our podcast. And comment on Spotify and like us and review us on all the podcast platforms. That helps us a lot when people are looking for books podcasts. So thank you again, and we'll see you between the covers.